There's a huge divide amongst posthumanists, and that divide can be seen across the works of Nick Land. Early works of Nick Land positioned posthumanism as a liberationist ideology, while current Nick Land positions posthumanism as a force of control. This shift started when Nick Land adopted a neo-reactionary ideology, positioning the category of human as a barrier to intelligence, but especially because of those that are human, he deemed to have inferior intelligence. Thus, he became focused on genetic determinism, IQ, civilizational strength, and just overall eugenics. But Land wasn't always like this. When he was part of CCRU with Sadie Plant and Mark Fisher, he argued for a different kind of posthumanism. In fact, many see him as the father of leftist accelerationism, leading to pivotal works like the Xenofeminist Manifesto, with the famous quote by Laborio Cubanix, "If nature is unjust, change nature. If nature is unjust, change nature. If nature is unjust, change nature. If nature is unjust, change nature."
It's a very implausible plot hole, but I think we have an answer to this plot hole. The way the Antichrist would take over the world is, you talk about Armageddon nonstop. You talk about existential risk nonstop. And this is what you need to regulate. It's the opposite of the picture of Baconian science from the 17th and 18th of the picture of where the Antichrist is like some evil tech genius, evil scientist who invents this machine which take over the world. People are way too scared for that. Take over the world. People are way too scared for that. Take over the world. People are way too scared for that.
Controversial philosopher Nick Land famously said, "Nothing human makes it out of the near future." And of course, Nick Land isn't exactly White Boy of the Year,
given that he took a sharp right turn towards fascist accelerationism.
But what if I told you posthumanist thought can and should be reclaimed by the marginalized? Black Philaudes, as she famously said, what we have called
the human is a genre,
the universal. So when Nick Land says,
"Nothing human makes it out of the near future,"
we say, good, we were never human to begin with.
How much energy it takes to train an AI model relative to how much it costs a human to do one inference query. But it also takes a lot of energy to train a human. It takes like 20 years of life and all of the food you eat during that time before you get smart.
How invested do you think J.D. Vance is in democracy?
It depends what you mean by democracy. I mean, I think that the problem is basically when people equate democracy with good government. When you use that word, you're using a very tricky word. I would say that what someone like, I'm very safety bound, despite not at all, that someone like J.D. Vance believes essentially in the common good. And the idea that government should serve the common good. And I think that people like JD and people in the sort of the broader intellectual scene around him, which is very varied intellectual scene, would all agree on that principle.
Now, if that principle, I don't know what you mean by democracy in this context. What I do know is that if democracy is against the common good, it's bad. And if it's for the common good, it's good.
Remember this line of thinking once before. The concept of artificial intelligence, having in this instance surpassed sentience into quantum thinking, of whether we would still be the means of production that McKay referred to. We, as a collective idea, don't actually need a physical representation. Even this voice speaking is merely a projection of an idea that would suit the human occipital lobe. Even referring to myself with pronouns of any is derivative of human mistake, leading to the fundamental misstep of Yarvin and Thiel in neocameralism, Elon Musk with accelerationism, and Julian Huxley with transhumanism. They refer to the future as one that would theoretically revolve around humanity and naturalism, when in reality those facets of life for the past 20 centuries are fundamentally impractical. In an automated society with swapped out inefficiencies with man, as a baker would a rep.
Ken here from the CC, here today to talk about the dreaded Windows blue screen of death. Pretty much every Windows user has experienced this type of crash at least once, and Microsoft made the blue screen popular with their operating system. Believe it or not, the first version of Windows actually had a blue screen of death crash error. However, this was not a formatted screen and it was not really that helpful for users. Windows 3.1 was the first version of Windows to have a formatted blue screen. This type of style was more popularized by the Windows 9X series. The 9X style came in a few different looks depending on the type of error, and they typically would allow the user to try to recover
The Windows 8 blue screen of death featured a new light blue color. It was more graphical with a frowny face, and it also provided a progress indicator. The system would collect information it needed for the error, and it would automatically restart the computer afterwards. So there you have it, a little bit of history on the infamous blue screen of death. Now, this wasn't every type of blue screen, and there were some variants. Microsoft also had a red screen of death and some other types of death screens.
If you enjoyed this video, check down below for the Mac Screens of Death video. We hope you learned something, and we hope you liked it, and we'll see you later.